Today is Wednesday, July the 25th, 2012. I'm Matthew T.G.
I'm Heath Mulligan.
Stephen Sheets.
Hey, and I'm Tony Casey. Welcome to the Technology Show. This is a weekly podcast featuring technology, theology, and everything in between. You have tuned in to episode 164, and joining us all the way from the great state of Pennsylvania is Stephen Sheets.
It's my privilege, gentlemen.
Hey, let's see that shirt you're wearing. What does it say on there?
It's a private label.
Nice. I like that. I like that a lot.
Stephen is coming to us live from Penn State today, reporting live on the ground.
Yeah, this is crazy. The last time we had you on, Stephen, I don't know if you remember, but the Sandusky the convictions had just come down.
Yeah, I remember, and we talked about it just briefly, and things have snowballed since then, haven't they?
Yeah, and I think if you go back and check that episode, I said the next step in this is going to be what's the fallout now because of this conviction, and that's what we have seen this past week. Hey, this is really off the cuff here, but in the pre-show we started talking about Chick-fil-A. I feel like I was a little behind the eight ball on this one because I knew that there was quite a furor going around, but I wasn't quite sure, what started it.
Yes,
The Furor.
The Furor was going around.
What?
Isn't that like a French hat or something?
No, I think it's like...
I don't know.
I love the way that Matthew has my back on these.
Yes.
If we can misconstrue this, let's do it, please,
Yes.
by all means. So, Heath, Stephen, kind of, so continue to bring me up to speed with this.
Well, Dan Cathy from Chick-fil-A was doing an interview and was just asked about, traditional family values and basically said, we're guilty as charged.
He literally said.
Yeah.
I mean, that was his statement
Yeah.
after. Let me look up the actual question while you keep talking, but that was his actual statement.
And basically said, we do support traditional family values. In my eye and in my ear, he didn't say anything controversial. But it was construed as controversial. The mayor of Boston has declared that he will not allow Chick-fil-A in the city. The Muppets had toys coming out in the Chick-fil-A kids meals coming up. They have pulled out of that, and it's like there's this outcry against Chick-fil-A for just. I don't even know that they were taking a stand. He just answered a question in an interview in a very.
Can the mayor of Boston prohibit?
Yeah, that's a big discussion that he actually he shouldn't be able to do that. There's a whole thing about.
Has he ever had Chick-fil-A? I mean, that's the question. Because it's clear that he hasn't. Because if this mayor of Boston, and we're talking to you, sir.
Yeah.
You, sir. If you've ever had Chick-fil-A, you would never deprive an entire city.
Oh my word.
Of Chick-fil-A. That, sir, is controversial.
His statement in the article is very emotional about the issue, and then I think towards the end of the article he kind of backs off and says, if there's permits required, I will make it extremely difficult for those kinds of things to go through. So it's
Can I say how disturbing this is? Because throughout the years there's always this controversy whenever like a KK group wants to march and continually the response has been this: if they file the right paperwork, they have the right to do this. And for the mayor to make that kind of a statement, it's egregious is what it is. And Chick-fil-A needs to get you to do a commercial. I mean, maybe we can just send them this little. I
mean, I'll go into full wrestler mode about this.
And he doesn't even need money. He just needs Chick-fil-A sauce as payment.
I've got some. If they'll just give me a big tub of the Chick-fil-A mayonnaise, I will be totally happy.
Yeah. You have a sick life. if that's all that's going to make you happy,
that's all
Chick-fil-A mayonnaise.
That's all I need.
Oh my word! Something I hardly ever do is go back and watch an episode of our show. But this week I actually went back and listened to Josh again.
Yeah.
And I've never done this before, but I would encourage you, if you didn't see last week's podcast, I have so much respect for Josh and the ministry that he's undertaking there in Asheboro, North Carolina, and his commitment to it. And it's just his overall commitment. It was a great show. He was a wonderful guest.
Yeah, a lot of good discussion last week for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so the reason Steven's on here is because his birthday's coming up.
Well, I thought it was yesterday.
Oh, no. It was yesterday.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It is coming up in 364 days.
And so, Steven, how does 43 feel?
Funny. 33 feels exactly the same as 32.
Yeah, I hear you. And so, in all seriousness, on your website, stevensheets.com, you talk about a project that's near and dear to you. And so we've got the video. Why don't we watch the video, and then you can just speak to it, okay?
Great.
Water. It's life's most basic need. But there's a water crisis in our world right now. Seriously, a crisis. Nearly 1 billion people live without clean drinking water. It's happening all over the world, especially in developing areas of sub-Saharan Africa, Southeast Asia, and Latin America. It's a water crisis because it starts with water. But water affects everything. Education, health, poverty, and especially women and children. Let's look at a family caught in the water crisis. It's likely they live on less than $1 a day. When they're thirsty, they can't just turn on the faucet for a nice cold glass of water. They don't have a faucet. Instead, the women and children go off to collect water. Many walk up to 3 hours a day to the nearest swamp, pond, or river to gather water that's been sitting out in the open, exposed to all kinds of germs. Time spent gathering water is time they can't spend learning to read, write, earn an income, or take care of their family. Some women in sub-Saharan Africa spend more time collecting water than any other activity they do in the day. And the walk isn't just hard, it's dangerous. The women are alone and burdened with 40 pounds of water. Many get hurt. Sometimes they're even attacked. When they make it home, the little water they've collected isn't clean. Some families know their water is contaminated with germs that cause diarrhea, dehydration, even death. But what choice do they have? Kids, especially babies, are affected most by these germs. About every 19 seconds, a mother loses one of her children to a water-related illness. And each day, almost 1 billion people are living this way. Until they get a little help. The water crisis is solvable. There are solutions. Some are brand new and innovative, like water filtration systems. Some are age-old, like drilled or hand-dug wells. These solutions bring clean water much closer to the people who need it. A safe water project near a village restores hours each day to a person's life. This time, it's opportunity. It's freedom to go to school and get an education, to work or start a business, to raise a family. Africa alone could save 40 billion hours each year. That's the entire annual workforce of France. Clean water means less disease. That's less money spent on medicine, which means more money for books and school uniforms. And if the water project is built near a school, it can increase attendance, especially among young girls. The water crisis is vast, but we can solve it. Just $20 can provide one person with access to a clean water project in their village. And this will mean more than clean water. Because water changes everything. Join us.
Let me get your mic back.
So, Steven, your birthday wish is that people would give to this project, right?
Yeah, it was. A week ago, I joined up with Charity Water. They make it super easy to give away your birthday with a birthday campaign. And you're kind of swearing off gifts and income for other things for your birthday. I mean, there's nobody holding it over you, but
sure.
The idea is to, through social media, Facebook, Twitter, those kinds of things, ask people to give on your behalf for your birthday. And so I started a campaign hoping to raise $660, which would give fresh, clean water to 33 people for my 33rd birthday.
Nice.
Cool.
And people started giving almost immediately. As soon as I launched, I had a couple people make donations the first time I mentioned it on Facebook. And then I just kind of got a little ridiculous yesterday morning and changed my Facebook timeline image to an image that kind of promoted it. And then I just started talking about it again and again as I was working. And people responded huge. I just kept posting about the updates of how much has come in and how much is coming, how much is remaining before the goal is reached, and people responded very generously, and over $744 so far through my little campaign.
Nice.
That took very little energy, probably annoyed many of my my Facebook followers.
Wait, but hold on now. You annoy them all the time, so that's
Yes.
I mean that's kind of normal, right?
You're annoying them for a good cause. Hey, here's the thing that a lot of people may not know is if you haven't heard Scott Harrison's testimony, the founder of Charity Water, just a wonderful testimony. I remember the first time I watched his testimony, I was curious to know if he was a believer or not. And the first words out of his the first words in this video testimony I was watching is like, I remember when God got a hold of my life. And he talked about just being on a mission trip and seeing this. And so Charity Water per se is not a Christian organization, but Scott Harrison's heart is for the Lord. He did a great interview in Relevant Magazine not too long ago, and just a quality organization. They were one of the first organizations to take donations via text messaging, and he went to all the cell phone carriers and says, you will pay the fee, the texting fee, you'll cover that. And they did. And so Steven, hats off to you. And so, all right, so your goal is to help 33 people. How many people did you end up helping?
So far 37.
So you helped enough people for my birthday.
So far, and I couldn't limit it to just my birthday. So the end date for my campaign runs through October 20th. So I'm gonna keep. I'm not gonna harbor again and again or harp on the campaign again and again. But I'm gonna keep it in front in some ways so that if anybody else wants to give, we can keep it going.
Sure.
I'd love to break $1,000 between.
Oh
now
yeah,
and
absolutely.
In the beginning of our show, before we actually got rolling in the pre-show discussion, you were talking about how, again, the ease of setting this up, and how did that play into your decision to do this, and then, like, how would you speak into other organizations to say, hey, use this as a lesson for your form of giving and mobilization, whatever?
Yeah, if I can be candidly critical, I wish some of our smaller entities that are associated with our churches had half as much understanding or ability to do something like this, because I would have made it work. One of the reasons I went with Charity Water is because I've seen someone else do campaigns before for their birthday, and the graphics that were provided and the chart that shows how far things are going have all just, I mean, the video that we just watched is way beyond anything I've seen many organizations produce. And I think quality in these instances and ease of use are absolutely necessities, because people literally had to do 2 clicks to donate any amount. And I had $5 donated by someone and $99 donated by someone else.
Wow.
Someone had a little trouble with the website at one time, and they actually phoned in their donation. So there were people waiting to take that donation, and then that amount went on to the total. So there are people working to make these kinds of things happen, and the grassroots effort. I mean, before last week, I'd never raised a penny for Charity Water, and now through that campaign, we've sent in $744.
Wonderful.
To help provide water.
So
they made it easy.
So as a lesson for, like, as we speak into our organizations that are very dear to our hearts, I mean, they very much are. When you can make it simple and the message very clear like that, boy, what a help that is. And the effort that you put into doing stuff of quality like that can only reap your organization benefits, right? I mean, wouldn't you say? I'm trying to look at you two here, Tony.
Oh yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. My thought. I was sitting here thinking that, especially for your generation and younger, Steven, that this is even more critical.
Yeah.
Sure. I know that kind of thing costs money. One of the things Charity Water prides themselves in is 100% of those donations go toward funding water. They're not administrative costs. They have their that income elsewhere. And I think more and more organizations, because of the integrity issue, are beginning to head that way and say that anything that comes in via this campaign, none of this goes to pay for the CEO's Hummer or anything like that. That nobody's pension is paid with this money. Nobody's income is paid with this money. It's all going to provide water, and that's a selling point to people.
Yeah, no question.
It makes you wonder, as we were watching that video, you think about things that governments and individuals have spent money on the last 100 years. And it's not like we didn't have the technology to dig wells 100 years ago. And it's just kind of like, how did we get to this point where...
But let's be honest, we just take that for granted. The context of my life is water has never been an issue.
Yeah.
I walk over to the sink, I turn it on, and it's clean water, and I never think twice whether it's clean, whether it's good.
You assume
it's relatively speaking.
Yeah,
okay?
You assume it's clean.
So part of this is just you live in a bubble, and now through the globalization of the world, literally, and we have communications. Stephen was in Ireland yesterday, and we're texting back and forth. I mean, you have instant communication.
Yeah.
The world is becoming smaller, and awareness is part of that, just the shrinking world.
Yeah. Our attitude about water is kind of like that scene from Three Amigos where Chevy Chase, Martin Short, and Steve Martin are in the desert.
Never seen that movie.
And Steve Martin and Martin Short, their canteens are empty in the middle of the desert. Chevy Chase opens up his canteen. He's gargling, spits it out, pours out a little, and they're just kind of looking at him like, what are you doing? Because he had obviously saved his water. I don't know, but that's one of them.
Thank you for that, Heath. Because
pop culture at its finest.
All right. Well, let's keep going here. Interesting article by Tom Rainer entitled 10 Reasons We Have Not Reached the Unchurched. What we'll do here is we'll just read all 10 of these. We'll start with Heath, and we'll just go back and forth on these, and then we'll discuss it.
Top 10 reasons we have not reached the unchurched. Number 1, spiritual lethargy.
Number 2, growing inclusivism.
Number 3, growing disbelief in hell.
Number 4, busyness.
Number 5, fear of rejection.
Number 6, a desire to be tolerant.
Number 7, losing the habit of witnessing.
Number 8, lack of accountability.
Number 9, failure to invite.
And number 10, we go to churches that do not reach the unchurched. I'm going to start with number 10 there. There was a lady who said to me, hey, after many years of living in a particular neighborhood, she said, I decided to visit X church. And I said, oh, really? What was that like? And she said this, I walked in, literally, nobody spoke to me. Now, she said, eyes were on me big time. People looking, but no one said anything, and she was able to leave without anyone saying anything to her.
Wow.
So going to number 10 here, we go to churches that do not reach the unchurched. I mean, obviously this woman was not an unchurched person. She just went out of curiosity. But now let's just say that this was a person that was unchurched and for whatever reason decided to show up at that church that morning. You think they're going to come back?
Right. One thing we have really tried to do in our church is do a better job of engaging guests on Sunday morning and accurately counting that. And so if there's a Sunday that we don't get a connection card, like I'm very depressed the next day, because that's how I measure. To me, that's how you measure what you did during the week. If you have someone new show up for church that you somebody had invited, that's a win to me. But obviously.
Well, the last couple of years I pastored, our goal was this: that if you came to visit us on Sunday, by Thursday you've had 3 contacts from us.
Right. Yep.
And you'd be surprised how easy it is to do that.
yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
In some way or fashion, to have some kind of contact from the church by Thursday,
Yeah.
and non-intrusive.
Yeah. Yeah. We send. We get the cards on Sunday. We send out a card on Monday. We send out an email on Tuesday if they've got email, and then we try to whoever did our first batch of connection cards left the phone number off, so we're remedying that. So
Here's another thing. Number 8 there, lack of accountability.
yeah,
I felt like one thing we've had a good steady diet of.
yeah,
I think shame can be good.
yeah,
And I mean, our district superintendent, I mean, he made the comment that for churches that are reporting 0 baptisms, this is unacceptable.
yeah,
We heard this from a denominational point of view.
Mm-hmm.
I heard it at General Conference. We heard at our camp meeting last week, Mike Hilson
yeah.
raised this subject. And I do think lack of accountability. I mean, you've got to, churches have to be accountable. Why do you exist?
Yeah. Hey, Stephen, how did Western Pennsylvania District, did they talk about kind of the denominational push on salvations and baptisms?
For sure. And Dr. Line was our GS, so we got the same State of the Church address. And actually, I just shared, did you guys get that link to the video? There's some issues I have with the video technology-wise, but I showed it to my board Tuesday night or Monday night for our board meeting to bring them all into the same
That's a good idea.
understanding of the 2 of us that were at district conference.
Right.
And it was very well received. We had some great discussion afterwards, especially on the question that she addresses in the video of, if your church closed today. We've heard that for years. If
Yeah.
your church closed today, would your community be affected?
Yeah. That's a convicting and penetrating question, but very necessary.
Absolutely.
Also, too, I think that some people have heard me beat this drum. We are in a phase of the church where things are changing within the culture. And in the 50s, the church was a chapel. It's kind of a chapel mentality.
Yeah.
It's here for us.
Yeah.
Everything we do is for us. And we have been reminded in good ways that we've been called to make disciples, to reach out. And it is a tough time of transition in the church. I would say on our district, Alive is a church that's probably doing the best at this in terms of every decision they make is with the 96,000 unchurched in mind. So someone says, hey, let's start this program. The immediate question is this: how does that help us reach the 96,000?
And to give a little bit of clarity to that, what they're talking about is that in the county in which that church is located, they've estimated that there are 96,000 people who are not
Right.
associated with the church.
Right.
And so what they're saying is, how does this program, how will it minister, or how will it impact this group of people? And that's where their priorities are. Yeah.
Yeah, no question. All right, any of the other ones here you guys want to discuss? I mean, anything that jumps out there?
The one about busyness. I mean, that's something we really harp on, or I harp on from the pulpit, about how one of the things Satan has done to tear down the family in our country is when was the last time? How often do families have dinner around a table together, where everybody's engaged and you're catching up on the day? I mean, we've lost that, and some of that's because we're busy, and although the microwave is a blessing, the microwave dinner can be a curse, both health-wise and that we're just not spending time together as a family. But also, the one big problem I had in youth ministry is, man, kids would be gone all the time for sports stuff, and so that was always very frustrating.
You talk about family eating together. I mean, it's just a commitment that you make.
Yeah.
And that's just one thing among many where you prioritize and say, this is going to be a priority.
Right. And if a family is too busy to have dinner with each other, what are the odds of them inviting someone who's unchurched over to their house for dinner to engage in a spiritual conversation in the hopes of overcoming the fear of rejection and the resistance to invite. So,
Okay.
Steven's thinking down there. I can see he's
No,
laying back
yeah,
in his chair.
I'm right in line with you guys. I'm just listening.
Okay.
Wake up, Stephen. All right. So, Matthew, you wanted to talk about Microsoft Office 2013.
Yeah,
and,
which is actually
some
called Office 365 now. I think is going to actually be the
Okay.
name of it. So it's coming along with Windows 8. It'll be here. But it's very interesting the way that they're going about this. It's looking like, and there's no prices confirmed or anything like this,
nothing.
but it's looking like they're going to be doing this on a subscription basis. So like you don't actually buy the Office suite, you buy a monthly subscription to Office or an annual subscription to Office, and you have access to it at any computer you're at. So they're trying to take a page from the Google Docs playbook, but also the awesomeness. I mean, there's in the world, there's nothing else that quite is as widely adopted and as easy to use and as universal as Microsoft Office.
it's
I mean,
the
they really,
standard.
they dominate that. And so they're trying to do this. So what I have over here to my right is a laptop that has Windows 8. What is this? Consumer preview. What is this on here?
Yeah.
I'm actually going to pull my camera down here.
Consumer preview.
And we are going to try, because what's supposed to happen here is on this laptop, when you install, wave at us, Heath, say hi. There we go. Okay. When you install Office on this thing, you're supposed to then be able to, like within 90 seconds or something like that, be able to use one of these applications. So you're not downloading this giant install file. It's like it's downloading a little bit of the application, just enough to get you started, and then it's installing it all in the background as you begin using it, which is wild. So we're going to give it a try. I don't know how this is going to work. Tony, I tell you what. Come on.
Okay, you want to
come over here and hold this camera like right up over here over my shoulder.
Oh, this is exhilarating live action.
It is. So like right there. I hope you wore your deodorant. Let's get up here a little closer.
Now, real quick, one of the questions in the chat room is, so this is like Google Docs, but you get to pay for it. Is that what
Yes,
you're...
but you're paying for quality. I want to get some of that exposure down. Let's see. There we go. I tell you what. How about can you do that right there? Okay, so here we go. This is live, folks. I think it's here,
What are you doing?
and then I think we're here, and then I think we're here.
I'm just ashamed that there's a Windows-based machine
We're
on our
almost
show.
Get started now.
There's another one on the show in Pennsylvania.
Well,
All right. From here, you can install Office, manage your account, blah, blah, blah. Let's get started. Install. Current PCs installs. I haven't used any. So, okay.
now we're
I'll
not
install
seeing
again.
anything
Oh,
on the
there it is.
screen. We're just seeing
Run.
white and a green button.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's all washed out, TG.
Yeah, that's exposure issues. Let's see if I can get the camera changed.
Blizzard.
Okay.
Well, no, I
Sorry
won't
about
comment.
We're sorry. Office does not work with the Windows 8 consumer preview. Blast it all. Well, see, they've made that super simple. I thought this was supposed to be a... Hold on here. This is supposed to be a... that's what this is. What? Oh, my word.
I don't know.
I've failed.
Hey, so here's a great discussion. Steven, have you tried to use Windows 8? Steven, are you there? Steven can't hear a thing.
No. I am here, but I'm not.
But
No,
he's not.
You can't hear me?
Well,
Well,
it's-
now.
yeah, you're
we
getting
can
the
now. You were
breaking up
coming
on
in
us.
bits and pieces there. So you've not tried Windows 8, right? He's getting a delay.
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
correct. I haven't.
all right. Well, I'm going to actually hang up the call, and we'll call
Yeah,
him back.
we'll-
That'll
we'll
take
get
care
him
of that
back.
issue.
So
DSL.
I,
You know, the
I-
show was running fine until we started using the Windows machine.
That's true.
Yeah.
So it's very confusing. Like
That's not fair.
to me, that I was just thrown into this morning. This is really the first time that I've played around with it. You brought down this laptop that you have it installed there. The start menu is nowhere to be found. It's gone, and that really was the hub for everything in Windows. Like it became the trunk off of which you'd go to everything else. In my opinion, the way that I would use Microsoft. Can you agree or disagree? I mean, I need a little interaction here. I can't see your face.
I
so.
agree
it's
with
killing
that. After using it for about 6 weeks, I began to learn my way around how you do things, and So that's fine for me. I mean, I use Ubuntu, so I learned the whole Linux thing. So for a guy like me, I don't think it's that big of a jump. But I maintain family members' computers. Windows 8 is going to be an absolute nightmare for them.
Yeah.
The first question is going to be, where's the start button? Where's the start menu? I think as a tablet OS, it is going to be spectacular. As a desktop OS, I think it's a train wreck waiting to happen.
Yeah. So
How do
I
you
finally
really feel,
did find
Tony?
the control panel. You have to hover your mouse in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, and it brings up this sidebar that lets you get to settings and then the control panel.
Yeah,
But there's just no explanation. And how was I supposed to know that? Bottom left-hand corner gets you to the tiled interface. But again, you just scroll through there and you're trying to find things, and you got absolutely nothing.
Well, yeah, and for people that can't see it, I mean, they don't understand
Yeah.
what you're talking about. Here's my advice: if there are some of you out there and you're going to buy a new computer and you're holding out for Windows 8, don't. You can get the computer now so you can have Windows 7.
Yeah.
Unless somehow between now and the release of this, which is going to be late September, early October, unless they restore the start button,
Right.
I just
well,
think.
and they start you with the live tiles. Like when you start the computer, you're not in. I'm bringing this back over here. Here they are, folks.
Yeah, they can see that.
You start with this deal, and you say,
Which
okay,
looks
so what
awful
do I,
like their mobile.
right on a
interface.
tablet. This is going to make sense because it is a different. It's designed. I'd be like, okay, so I want to do that right there, and then it opens up.
I
that
would love to have a
application or whatever.
Microsoft tablet. Now, I think that they're going to have the best OS for a tablet with Office integration.
I can't believe what I'm hearing.
For Office integration, especially for enterprise.
Okay. So what you're saying is that a
who's
Windows
gonna use
tablet will be
Office?
the best place for the Windows tablet operating system.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah,
I'll agree with that.
Your iPad is not a production machine for you. What I'm saying is that Microsoft
a
is going to
consumption.
produce a tablet that you can, you can produce things with.
But then the blue screen will happen and you'll lose it all.
Yeah.
So no, like it happened during that. I said, well, I still want to go on here. So just to show everybody, so I'm digging around through here trying to figure out, okay, where in the world is the
Carmen
control
Sandiego.
panel? And you look through here, and you got to get your mouse. I don't know if you can see my mouse here in the corner, but it's got to go into this bottom right hand corner, and then it brings up this sidebar with this gear icon.
But you
Shows
of all
but I
people
would've-
shouldn't complain about that because you're the king of keystrokes. You can get a whole thing about keystrokes. You would never use that anyway. You would use.
Well, I wouldn't, but I'd have to relearn all of that. And nobody I don't know a single Windows user that is invested as heavily into keystrokes as
Michael Bryant.
a typical. Well, maybe okay. So,
So
I
I
know
know-
one
I know
out
one.
of, but okay. So you,
I don't know.
I'd like
I
to
don't know an
see-
Apple person that's more invested in keystrokes than you. So
They
you are
exist.
very select.
No.
You do not represent
Keystrokes are
anybody.
huge. Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
Yes,
no,
I
you don't.
do.
You
Yes, I do.
You
Mac
are from
users of the
another
world,
planet.
learn your keystrokes, please.
Look at Stephen.
we
Look at Stephen.
once were
Wait,
children,
I'm
and we
just
lived.
saying-
We
hold on,
lived as
hold on.
children
I
by
wanna
the mouse.
say-
We are
Wait.
now adults. We live by keystrokes. As an adult, learn to use your keyboard.
This is by far the nerdiest argument
I
in the
agree.
history of
I agree.
civilization. It's arguments like that have kept people from getting clean water out there.
I am frustrated and mad at Windows 8, and I'm mad that I can't install that my example was messed up.
All right.
Somewhere Steve Jobs
me.
is laughing.
Yes. And now it's time for
Download of the week.
All right, and for our download of the week, this is not a free app. Matter of fact, you have to pay a monthly subscription, but I am just going to throw this out. Audible.com. They have this promotion where for 3 months you pay $7.95
Let's talk about
each
what
month.
it is first.
I will.
Okay.
And $7.95 a month. For that, you get 1 credit each month, and they're audiobooks. So a lot of the
there we go.
titles that you see on New York Times bestseller, they're going to be out on Audible right away. I did the promotion for 3 months, so I paid the $7.95. And I have the Audible app on my iPhone. I have it on the iPad. There's a desktop client for it. A lot of times I'm listening to a book when I'm jogging. You can do bookmarks, and so if there's something that I think is really good, I'll pull that thing out of my pocket. It has the 30-second, if you hit the 30-second rewind button I can hit that, and then when I get to that place again, I bookmark it. After the run, a lot of times I'll sync things up, and so I can get that quote. And for $7.95 a month for the first 3 months, if after that it's $14.95 a month for a subscription. You can cancel at the end of the 3 months. Also, there are a lot of promo offers where you get 1 free credit. 1 credit equals 1 book, basically.
Typically, there are some books that are more than 1 credit, but on it for the huge majority, one credit's a book.
So is Shades of Grey, is that better listening to it or reading it?
I don't know. How did you think the read was?
I don't know.
Ooh.
Don't be trying to burn me on air, okay?
You know, somebody that's in this round table today, their website, their blog was advertising those books. I won't say who it was, but
What?
he loves helping people who need water.
I paid $36 last month advertising for that book.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, man.
That's terrible.
So have Matthew? I know you've used Audible.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I'm an auditory learner, so I mean, if that's your type of learning, like if you can sit and listen, and that's how you really glean and latch onto information, Audible is huge. I mean, for me to sit down and power through a book, I can do that, but I feel like I can do better hearing it read. It helps me. It's just my learning style. So it's fantastic, and the selection is humongous. I wish
Huge library.
I do wish, in a sense, that sometimes I feel like it does get a little pricey, and I had a subscription for a while that I'd kind of forgotten about. So I had this accrued like quarter of a year credits, like 3 or 4 months worth of credits. So being able to go do that. And there's some times when I wish that it was more, I don't know, I wish that this was more of a public library than a
paid for.
Right.
Yeah.
That you could
Now,
rent
they
a
do
book,
have,
like you'd rent a movie.
That'd be
where,
interesting.
Right, where you didn't get to keep it, but like it came in and you could listen to it, and then it would be returned, and instead of it costing you $7.99 or whatever, it was a couple bucks.
Now, Audible does do free giveaways monthly, and I've downloaded several free audiobooks from them. So you just have to keep your eye out.
There's
open
also,
for that.
let me look it up here. I got Adopted for Life off of an audiobook website, but hold on.
We're holding.
I'm trying to figure out where it is. ChristianAudio.com gives away a book every month, and Adopted for Life was one that I've talked about many times, and I got it.
Hey,
there
put that
for
link
free.
in the show notes.
Okay.
Hey, Steven, just so you know, your mom's reaction to the fact that you're making money off Shades of Grey in the chat room is just unbelievable.
Steven, we do make ourselves available for counseling.
Yes,
Thanks, guys.
and for business
We
partnerships.
are here for you, Steven. Have you tried Audible, Steven?
Nope.
Haven't.
No, I don't seem to be the audiobook kind of guy so far. But I will be driving 2.5 hours to DBA meetings this year.
There you
and
go.
That will soon be changing.
And Steven, they do have an affiliate program.
I really don't think I'm interested in subscription-based audiobooks, because can't we get most of those audiobooks on Amazon and own them without having to have a
You
subscription?
could. The subscription, it's kind of like those old deals. Remember where they'd send you a flyer and you'd choose 12 CDs.
For a penny.
And then
Yeah.
and then you're buying So it's kind of like that model.
Audible is Amazon.
Well,
I mean, it's owned by Amazon.
Yeah, they are owned by Amazon. That's right.
Oh.
Yep.
I still wish there was a way to rent books and
That's a great
not have to
idea.
own them.
That is a great idea. Let's start that business.
Yeah, well, I mean, seriously, it's just, I mean, it's a DRM issue, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
But as connected as everything is, what if instead of actually downloading the thing and playing it, what if you were playing it off the server of the thing and you had
I bet you they could make more money. It's
or like a Netflix of books,
Yes.
where you keep it and you can download your
TNG.
next one. You can
Like,
download your next
that
one
is
when
a
you
great
return
idea.
Like
the
the-
one that you already have.
Like the Kindle Lending Club, kind of.
Yeah. I mean, it was just the audible format. Yeah, that's a great idea. All
Well,
right.
Copyright Matthew TG 2012.
Okay, time for They Said It.
Yes, it is.
Read my lips.
I'm going to say this again.
I've never taken steroids or HGH.
I took the initiative in creating the internet.
The Macintosh, of all the machines I've ever seen, is the only one that meets that standard.
I'm not a crook.
If you know what you're doing here, slide out.
Now, the fallout from the decision which has been made now is trickling down to probably so many avenues that we can't even think about it. Football-wise, we're getting bits and pieces about players being able to transfer without any penalty, without sitting out. Trying to get all the details of that, but it makes you wonder what the team will look like when they play that second game in September. Time has yet to tell how that team will look between now and our game against them. Virginia Cavaliers head coach Mike London, after hearing of the NCAA penalties leveled against the Penn State University football program in the wake of the Jerry Sandusky conviction and Louis Freeh report. Source, Sporting News.
Why the surge in digital demand? Privacy is one explanation. Erotic titles with racy covers are believed to sell better as ebooks because the technology removes the embarrassment of toting them around in public, and the same may be true of spiritual titles. Book jackets covered in angels and rainbows may be equally uncomfortable for some people to read in public. These books can be sampled, purchased, and read without the judgmental eyes of a clerk at the cash register or colleagues who might glance at the cover. Plus, digital Bibles and sex trilogies are only as heavy as your Kindle Fire. Mike Coker, founder of Smashwords.com, a publisher of self-published ebooks, explaining why digital formats of religion and sex sell well. Source, Smart Money.
I don't really have an opinion on the person as I've never met him, but I think the idea of a concert being canceled because one person threatening a lawsuit is absurd. Contemporary Christian singer-songwriter Michael W. Smith responding to the atheist Todd Oates' call for Draper City Council to cancel Smith's concert on the basis of the separation of church and state. Source, Christian Post.
The fall released human moral evil into the cosmos, and every single human being is a sinner, tempted by a full range of sinfulness. We cannot afford to be shocked when humans commit grotesque moral evil. It tells us the truth about unbridled human sin. Dr. Albert Mohler, president of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. Source, The Christian Post.
Okay, Heath, so here's my question for you. Penn State. Is
Okay.
what happened to them worse than the death penalty? And the death penalty, for those that don't know, the death penalty is when the NCAA comes in. They've only done this once. Southern Methodist University, they came in and said no football. What, for 1 or 2 years was it? I don't remember. At least a year, maybe 2 years. So the death penalty is when they say you cannot play football.
Southern Methodist was suspended for the 87 season. They also took the 88 season off. And if you haven't seen the Sports Illustrated documentary on that, that is very
worth
good
to watch.
Here's the thing.
So is what happened to Penn State worse than the death penalty?
Probably so. I'm still debating what happened. What happened in the let's just go. I mean, evil, horrible, the cover up, the actions by Sandusky, all of that. But none of that had anything to do with on the field
That's
play.
what I was going to ask. So how is this fair to these guys who have come to Penn State like on a scholarship or whatever, and now they're being told, "Yeah, you're like this." Like, how does this play out for them like that? That's got to that ruin that could. I'm not saying that every one of those guys is going to make it to the NFL or any of them necessarily. But, like, if they were serious about that and were like, if they wanted to be there for their 4 years of college and they were playing their hearts out, how is this fair to them?
Well, they can transfer immediately.
Yeah, and there are lots of schools, I know, in this area recruiting them heavily. And so for the players who are good, if they want to transfer, they can transfer. They're still going to have a football program. They got a 4-year bowl ban, which is, they're not going to win a national championship. This is the thing that is mind-boggling to me is, and I can go either way on if the NCAA overstepped their bounds. I see both sides of that issue. My whole issue is this, and I don't mean to get away from the Sandusky issue, but the NCAA, or let's say that in the last 11 years, Penn State had won a BCS championship. The NCAA has no authority over the BCS. That is run by conferences within the NCAA. And so technically, the NCAA could strip it, let's say 2000.
But they have already taken away BCS victories, bowl games from Penn State. NCAA did
and
that.
I don't know that they have the right to do that. That is my and I say all that to say, if the NCAA is not managing and overseeing a Division I football championship, then how do they have any say over Division I football?
I listened to this live on the radio, so I'm coming back from Easley. I listened to the press conference live, and the NCAA president speak about this, and he talked about the responsibilities the NCAA has. And I'm all along the way, I'm saying right, and he talked about the integrity of academics, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm thinking of? Kentucky University, their basketball program. Don't tell me what's going on there is in the best interest of academia.
Right.
It's not.
Well, here's the thing. Say what you will about Joe Paterno. If this is about academics, Penn State is the last school. Joe Paterno, to my knowledge, did a great job of graduating players. This is lots of mistakes, lots of. This is.
It's not that. I think that Joe Paterno could have done more with Sandusky. I think he knew. My thing is kind of getting to Matthew's point. I read yesterday was the first time, and when I got this story, I read comments. I hadn't thought about this. Players that played 10 years ago, 7 years ago, they said, we had nothing to do with this. One guy said, don't tell me those games were never played. I have a plate in my neck that proves that these games were played.
Yeah.
And while I hate the tragedy of what happened, why are we as players being punished for something that we didn't even know existed? And so I
honestly, it should be like.
What then should the punishment be, guys?
Right. That's where I was going to go, because then my next thing was, okay, so everybody that was on staff, everybody that was a part of the leadership of this, then should be like, if you're going to ban somebody and take okay, you're never doing anything again. But even there, you're going to have some people who were innocent.
No, Joe Paterno's dead.
No, hey, wait. I think, Stephen, to get to your question. I think all of the things that were divvied out are right and proper. The only thing that I contend they should not have done is they should not have taken victories away from Penn State. Going forward, I think that this school has to be punished because they were part of the cover-up, all the way up to trustees and to the president.
Yeah.
And so, and the way you make this right with players, with the present players, is you say you can transfer immediately without penalty. Normally, you have to, if you're going to transfer, you have to set out a year.
Yep.
So the way you rectify that, you say, no, you can leave right now to go to another college. There are plenty of colleges that will pick up these great players.
Yeah.
And so the one thing I do disagree with is don't take those victories away, because now you're punishing players who had no idea. Some of them didn't even know that there was a guy named Jerry Sandusky until it hit the news.
Well, this was not a punishment. I don't know how you do this. Can you remove the victories from Joe Paterno's record, but not from Penn State's record? You know what I mean? But it's like you said.
Again, just leave those alone.
Right.
Just leave those alone.
I think if Joe Paterno's name had not been attached to, I believe it was 111, 113 victories during that span, they would not have. But this was the thing.
And Paterno should not have covered this up. I think he was part of it. But again, to get your point earlier, this was a school that was a model school in terms of getting students through the program and graduating them.
Yeah. I think the biggest shock for all of us is for the past 30 years, when you talk about when you talked about a program with integrity that did it right, that's
the sting.
Never had an NCAA investigation, never had any issues as far as players off the field, as far as players graduating. This was the model program.
You're right.
Joe Paterno even said one time, he's like, I can't leave college football in the hands of Jackie Sherrill and Barry Switzer. And now we see that if you peel back the layers, that to protect this image, the cover-up that took place, the lives that were destroyed, to protect this pristine image, and what was going on there was, we would all agree, much worse than a player not graduating, much worse than players getting arrested. I mean, this was heinous and just ridiculous.
Well, Stephen, you going to say something?
I said evil. That's the term. That what was going on is evil.
Very good. Absolutely evil.
And that goes to, the last one we read about evil in the world. Albert Mohler's quote talking about this tragic shooting in Aurora, Colorado. That I went to the midnight showing of The Dark Knight Rises, and so I'm getting home around 3:30, which is about the time that all this is. So on my way home, I'm getting. I mean, I matter of fact, I didn't go to bed till 5 because I was trying to follow this through social media, which was.
Which is another story.
Right.
What'd you say, Stephen?
Social media was blowing up. I was trying to finish Heath's thought.
Yeah. Yes.
So Albert Mohler here, there's been all kinds of talk now. There's always this thing, who do we blame? TG was interesting. He came in this morning and he said this has just set off talks about firearms, Well, if
the two camps. Okay, so the two camps are, we need more people with guns in their pocket because somebody could have taken offense and got this guy. And then the other thing is we need more gun laws to keep guns out of pocket so that this guy never would have walked in. Both are solutions, but neither one's going to solve the problem. It's a matter of the heart for this guy. It's a matter of the heart. Anytime didn't we have a guy sitting right here at this table last week who made the very statement that said no man-made law that we're ever going to pass or any decision that we're ever going to make is going to make the right change. It's a matter of the heart, and both arguments are interesting, but both are invalid in through the lens of Christianity, through the lens of the Lord. Both are totally irrelevant. It's a matter of the heart.
We mentioned how this event blew up live on social media, and but how the shooter literally had very little digital footprint. He had no Facebook.
Oh, really?
No Twitter.
I didn't know that.
He did have an adult dating membership, we believe. I think, personally, a year from now, 10 years from now, we'll look back on this tragedy and the media coverage of it, the rush to call for gun laws, the rush to, I don't know if you heard ABC News, which they haven't done a very good apology, but basically said, well, there's a James Holmes, member of the Tea Party. How many James Holmes live in Colorado? And so they're rushed to blame political groups.
And they were totally wrong on that. Totally wrong.
And
very irresponsible.
And the guy that they pointed to got death threats and stuff. So just the irresponsibility and the rush to get the story first, but not the rush to get the story right. And that's one of our commitments at the Technology Show, is to be first and to be right.
Definitely not to be first.
What's Stephen laughing for?
What was I going to say, first of all?
I have no idea, Teach.
Oh, man.
All right.
Because it was good. I'm going to come back to it.
You can come back to it if it comes into your brain. Let's hit these other two really quick. I thought it was interesting, the story in Smart Money about for Christian titles and religious books. When ebooks first hit, they did not do well. Well, recently now, over the last year, they have really gone up. And so this guy says, he attributes it, I think he's right about sex trilogies and things like that. Those numbers have gone up because, publicly, you don't have to go anywhere and get it now. I don't think that applies to religious books, though. So in my world, I was slow to adopt ebooks, but this is why. I wanted to figure out an easy way to document ebooks. Well, once I think Matthew explained to me with Kindle, hey, you can go in and you can get those bookmarks. You can copy and paste. Yeah. Once I figured that out, boom, off the roof. Okay, I can do that. I started buying ebooks. Right. I just think he's wrong on this one, and it is his opinion. It's not a study.
Well, again, you talk about how I come from a very narrow view with Macintosh, with keystrokes and all of this. You, as somebody who buys a lot of books, who has a lot of books, you just say that. Now, put yourself in the place of someone who's interested in these things, but is in a world where everybody around them might really shame them for that, and they're living. I mean, we would say, well, you shouldn't live a life of shame, and you should be unashamed about your faith and whatever. But in another world,
so you think there's
that
kind of a
you're
ring of truth
from,
to this?
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
I see what you're saying.
Absolutely. In another world that you're not involved in, that I'm not involved in, absolutely, this is true. And there's people who are buying something like, well, I might even buy. Okay, I'm going to stop myself right there.
All right, well,
mental filter caught something, and it's not
Shades
going
of
to be
Grey.
saved.
What were you going to say?
No, not Shades of Grey. I was talking about a Christian book.
Your Best Life Now.
That's fine. That's fine.
No.
What?
No.
What did he say?
No. But what I'm saying. No. But no, that's my point.
But there's somebody who might.
But my point is, there are some of us. We might be reading a certain Christian book but we wouldn't. People. I mean, you guys would make fun of it. I mean, certain Christian books that I would buy if I bought it, and you saw me at Walmart,
like if our DS wrote a book, we won't want people to know we're reading it.
So here's some examples in the same way that we might do something differently. Brian McLaurin is what's the movement? I can't even remember now.
Emergent
movement. He's off the rails theologically. He really is, but he's very, very popular. That's something where you say, well, I don't really care to have that book on my bookshelf, where in my office, in my study, people are going to come in and say, okay, so what's going on here? But I am interested to hear what he's saying so that I can know how to position myself in this context and in this mindset. Right. There's an example where, I might grab that. I might prefer to grab that as an ebook rather than a physical copy of a book.
Good point. Steven, I'm just curious with you. Are you a big ebook person or no?
Absolutely. If I can buy it, I still wish the price point was a lot different.
Yeah.
It's sadly not, but I'm still, if I can buy it on ebook instead of on paper, I'll do it.
That is something that I just do not understand, and I'm going to harp on that again. There is a slight price difference. Sometimes it's cents, sometimes it's 50 cents or whatever. How is that even possible?
Yeah,
and in the same way that the consumer market is uneducated when it comes to cell phone data, so it is with this. Because with a paper book, imagine you're having to pay for paper, the print, to get it bound, to get it shipped, to get it put where it needs to go, then to get it to the customer. Like, imagine all the money that has to go into that print copy of that thing. Digital copy, you have money to have it hosted on a server somewhere where people can download it.
Yeah, mystery to me too.
Fraction of the cost.
How?
All right. Hey, let's talk about what's coming up here. August the 1st, Dan Scott. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Dan Scott is a former radio personality on sports talk shows. He is the founder of the Everyday Foundation, which is to help abused children here in the upstate and in particular the Tri-County area. He's also the voice of the Furman Paladins, does their football and basketball. And Dan is going to be live in studio with us next week to talk about when, I don't want to take away all his thunder, when the Sandusky story hit. Dan shared some very personal things on his radio show, and it's just had a great, a pretty hard, rough 7 months since making some of these, confessions of things that happened to him. But God's really done a work in his life, and I'm anxious to hear from him.
August 22nd, Dave Drury is going to be on with us, and here's what we're hoping to do. We're going to test this out because we don't know You know, we want to make sure it's effective and that it works. But he's going to take his iPad and kind of take us through a tour of the headquarters, and then we'll also talk to him. For those that may not know, Dave Drury,
Chief of Staff.
Chief of Staff at the Wesleyan International Center. So we're going to talk about that and kind of get his view of just these beginning days for him and how you strategize.
Can you take
and
us into
go
the
forward.
archives?
What?
I want to go into the archives.
Archives.
Yes.
To see Wesley's body.
Yes. Yes. To see.
Tony's second mailing address is in the archives.
TG's blowing up over here.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like Kim Jong-il and these guys in their glass coffins.
Lenin was in a glass case for a few decades.
He still is.
Is he?
As a matter of fact, never mind.
Okay. All right, so never mind.
Gravy.
Makes me want to ask, what? All right, August the 29th, Mark Waltz will be with us. He is the author of First Impressions, Creating Wow Experiences in Your Church. He also authored Last Impressions, From Visiting to Belonging, and How to Wow Your Church Guests with 101 Ways to Make Things Meaningful.
Is Beth coming in for that one, too?
She is. Beth will be in studio that day.
Peterson, yeah.
She put him on our radar screen, and he's at the Granger Church.
Yeah, so now we've got two Granger folks. It's a great church and definitely a church to pay attention to.
October is really shaping up to be a great month for us. October 2nd, we have Rachel Held Evans. We're going to discuss her book. We worked this out through Thomas Nelson. I know you're really excited, TG, about October 9th guest, Claire Diaz-Ortiz, her book, Twitter for Good. Why are you excited about this guest?
She comes from a ministry, even a more missions-minded background, and she works for Twitter now, and just in how to use social media to do something really powerful. So you need an example of that, like we hit on that a little bit here with Charity Water today. A lot of what Steven was able to do, I mean, if you took Facebook and Twitter and just used your blog, like how would stuff have been different for you?
Yeah, completely different.
Yeah.
Much smaller circle.
Yeah. So she talks about how nonprofits can and how ministry organizations can really utilize these things in a very effective way.
Yeah, get this one on your calendar, and this would be good, especially for your church, if you're trying to figure out how to honestly use Twitter to enhance the ministry. And again, Twitter for Good is all about nonprofits and getting the message out using social media.
We have a trailer for that book that I may play at the end of this show to just kind of play us out.
Yeah, that'd be great. October 16th, we have Dan and Joy Irvin in studio. These are people that we have just come to love and appreciate. Dan's in charge of the Carib Atlantic.
Global Partners.
Yeah, Global Partners. They're going to be in studio. They'll be coming from Atlanta, and so that will be a great show.
We need to ask that they bring us each a Haitian Coke, and maybe let's see, what else could we get from them? I'm just trying to think. A little bag of water. One of those. One of those little.
I'm trying not to think selfishly.
All right. Hey, Heath, where can our listeners find you online?
They can find me at heathmullican.com, and if you're getting ready for fantasy football, you want to check out my blog today on the 3 things that will ruin your fantasy football season.
Steven, where can our listeners find you?
StevenSheets.com.
All right. Tej.
Boy, you can find me at MatthewTG.com, and AnthonyCasey.com needs to be claimed and forwarded to Facebook.com.
Facebook.com/AKC64. Listen, if you want to do further research on anything we discussed today, you can find all the links to the story we covered at our website, thetechnologyshow.com. If you want to contact us, send your emails to thetechnologyshow@gmail.com, or better yet, leave us a voicemail by calling us at 3049-TEOLOGY. This would really make Matthew very, very happy.
Yeah, let us know how we're doing. Leave your comments, your questions about stuff that we talked about, things that you disagree with.
Only if you disagree with Heath, please. Again, that number is 304-986-5649. Leave us a message. We may even play your comments on the air. Steven, again, thanks for joining us. And for all of our listeners out there and viewers, thanks for stopping in. Goodbye, everybody.
I think Steven's leaving a comment.
Adios.
Wait just a second. I'm not sure what he's doing.
I'm not actually doing anything.
What a prop.
Did I say adios?
Do it.
Adios.
Goodbye.
Many people have said that you can't get where you want to go if you don't know where you're going. And developing a Twitter strategy is the answer to the question of why you're on Twitter and what you're really doing there. I'm Claire Diaz-Ortiz, and I lead social innovation and philanthropy at Twitter. I'm also the author of Twitter for Good, Change the World One Tweet at a Time. I used to work out in nonprofits out in East Africa. I started a nonprofit organization called Hope Runs, which works in AIDS orphanages in Kenya. And after doing that, I went to business school. The Skoll Foundation sent me to business school, and while there I met Biz Stone, one of the co-founders of Twitter. And he brought me on board here at Twitter a couple years ago. I see organizations of all sizes every day using Twitter to really make a difference in the world, and that means for-profit organizations as well as nonprofit organizations. One of my favorite for-profit examples of how companies are really using Twitter to make the world a better place is Pepsi. Pepsi's Refresh project has given away more than $20 million in community grants to small organizations and individuals. And they've really used their Twitter account to really galvanize a movement and get everyone behind it and help people to vote on who should be winning each and every grant. The American Red Cross and the Japanese Red Cross are both good examples of specific nonprofit organizations that use Twitter really well in the face of the earthquake in Japan. The American Red Cross had one specific account at Hawaii Red Cross that was sending out tsunami updates to mostly US individuals living in Hawaii and in the outer islands. And this account served to really provide important updates as people feared for, the oncoming new waves and new tsunamis that were coming. This year I was fortunate to help lead a session at South by Southwest, and there were a couple of great speakers that talked about how they were using Twitter in innovative ways to make a difference in the world. And I was leading this session, and during the session, one of these sort of calls to action for the participants was asking them, what is a hashtag that we can use that can best symbolize the way people are using Twitter in innovative ways to make a difference. And the participants suggested Twitter for Good, and that's why we use hashtag Twitter for Good today. One of my favorite individuals who's consistently able to contribute to the Twitter for Good hashtag is Mark Horvath, who runs invisiblepeople.org, and Mark works with homeless people throughout the US to try to empower them using social media tools. And Mark is consistently sending really poignant personal stories of how he's helping individuals who are facing homelessness with Twitter, essentially. And so he is able to highlight these stories to us using the hashtag Twitter for Good. I recommend that every organization of any size, small or large, has a Twitter strategy so that they can get started and try to make a difference on the platform. Having a strategy isn't just about having some vague goal or vague idea of getting 1 million followers. Having a Twitter strategy is about a concrete goal that you want to achieve, and then figuring out the steps to work towards achieving that goal. Twitter for Good is organized as a case study rich manual, but it's very hands-on, and it's set up following the 5-step framework that I regularly teach to organizations all over the world. There are 5 steps in the tweet model. The first, T, is target, which is about finding a goal for your account. The second step, W, write, is about making sure that you get on Twitter and start writing without over-editing yourself. The third step, E, engage, is about reaching out to others and making sure that you're not tweeting in a bubble. The fourth step, E, explore, is about finding influencers and new ideas on Twitter that you can engage with. And the final step in the framework, T, tracking, is all about figuring out how your strategy has been going and if it's working for you. Twitter for Good and the 5-step framework I outline in the book is about teaching organizations and individuals to really excel on Twitter. And by organizations, I mean nonprofit organizations and for-profit organizations of all sizes. And individuals also can learn the same lessons that any organization can learn from the book. It's important to remember that whether you're a 100-year-old organization or business with 500 employees, or you're Aunt Judy raising money with a bake sale, you can use the 5 steps that I explain in Twitter for Good to really figure out how to make a difference in the community and in the world around you.